Well, we may well be rolling all those momentous moments of commentary into one come Sunday night, because there's a heck of a story already developing at Augusta National. Tiger Woods tied for the lead on day one of the Masters. He's on 3 under par. He's currently playing the 16th hole. He's in a big group on 3 under par. 2 of them are in the clubhouse. The South African Justin Harding and Adam Scott, a former winner, is there as well on 3 under par. Out in the course, you've got Gary Woodland, John Rahm and Patton Kizzire alongside Tiger Woods. A host of big names are just in the middle of their rounds. Rory Mcilroy's been a bit of a struggle with his iron play so far today. Just hasn't got anything going at all. He is currently on 1 over par. He is playing the 15th hole, the par 5 15th. And Jordan Spieth has started slowly, dropped the shot at the first, looks certain to drop at least one more at the 6th, so he's dropping down the leaderboard. And Shane Lowry, a very tough day for Lowry, who finished up on 6 over par and already facing an almighty battle to make the cut. On the line to talk day one of the Masters, joined by Shane Ryan, author of Slaying the Tiger. Evening, Shane.
Hey, how you doing, guys?
Anybody going to slay Tiger this week? It's written in the stars now, isn't it?
Yeah, there's 86 others with a shot, so probably one of them will, but who knows? Maybe this will be his week.
Yeah, it is the perfect start, though, from a storyline point of view, to have Tiger right there. And I don't know how much of a surprise this is, considering Augusta is the type of course where form and knowing how to get it around is so important. And he was leading on the final day of the Open last year. He's won a PGA Tour event. His comeback is well underway. But he's shown little or nothing so far this season, and the weight of history, the weight of expectation. Are you surprised to see him up there so early on day one?
Not necessarily, no. I think, like you said, familiarity is important at Augusta, and this is probably the most likely, if Tiger's ever going to win another major, it's going to be this one. And he's probably going to have his best days early on, which isn't to say that he couldn't also play great on the weekend and actually contend. But I think if you said, when is Tiger going to be near the leaderboard at what major, it would be Thursday at Augusta. But again, this is a place where even in his darkest days, he competed and he contended. So it's not only knowing the course, but he likes the course, and he's always liked the course. He didn't know the course in 1997, and he did pretty well that year too. So it's could be Tiger's year for sure. I wouldn't bet on it, but it could be.
As you said, Thursday, a good start, and trying to continue that during the weekend is going to be so difficult in terms of he's 43 and he's probably got the oldest body of any 43-year-old in world sport with all he's been through. Is that the one concern as to trying to keep this going over the next few days? He tends to look very tired come a Saturday, Sunday evening. Like, struggles to hide it.
Yeah, he does seem tired. But again, we saw him win the Tour Championship. That was against a smaller field. And again, you should mention that Augusta having a smaller field really helps him too. It's better than playing against 125 people or whatever. But yeah, I think he's got to worry about that. But I think the bigger thing you have to worry about is somebody's going to get hot. That's not him. Somebody's going to put up a really, really good score on this course, and it's probably going to be somebody like Justin Rose or Brooks Koepka or Dustin Johnson or maybe even Jordan Spieth, even though he's kind of limping off to a rough start now. So he's going to have to continue to make birdies. I mean, it's not going to be enough to par. 72 in any round probably would take somebody out of contention, you would guess, especially if we get a little bit of rain this weekend. So there's a number of concerns for Tiger. But like you said, this is a totally auspicious start.
Have we seen that yet from him in this comeback, that when he needs to put the pedal to the metal, the way he could just take control of a tournament early on a Sunday and dominate a final round? Have we seen that he has that still in the locker? Or if he is to get a win, is it just a case of somehow hanging on in there and maybe hoping somebody else blows up?
Yeah, probably. I mean, it's funny you say that. It's also true that all 14 of his major wins came when he was leading after Saturday. So he's an unbelievable front runner, and he always has been. He's not as great at coming from behind. So if you see Tiger on Sunday maybe 4 or 5 strokes behind, I wouldn't bet that he'd go out and shoot 63 and steal one. But yeah, like you said, I mean, it's got to be. We see these tournaments a lot where weird things can happen at the end. So maybe Tiger goes -9, -10, plays pretty clean, doesn't make a ton of bogeys, and nobody lights it up. That's certainly possible. I expect somebody's going to light it up and get to around 14 or 15. But if nobody does, I mean, yeah, someone like Tiger can absolutely take it. It's just going to take one good round of 65 or 66, and then a lot of consistent ones around 69, 70 and you'll be able to, someone like that could easily win.
We heard some brilliant moments of commentary there from Jack Nicklaus winning his 6th green jacket at the age of 46. Like, Tiger's 43 now. In terms of what Tiger getting into contention does for golf in America this weekend, if he's thereabouts Saturday, Sunday, is it still transformative for the game of golf in terms of viewing figures? As someone said, he doesn't move the dial, he is the dial.
That's right. He is the needle. Of course it is. It's still transformative. I mean, it's a different kind of story than it would have been in 1997, but that doesn't mean it's a worse story. Tiger and the comeback, yeah, sure, he won the Tour Championship last year. That was exciting for people in the golf world. But that's not the same as winning the Masters. That's exciting for people in the sports world, period. So if he comes and wins the Masters or even contends in the Masters, believe me, you're going to see it reflected in the ratings that CBS pulls in on Sunday. You're going to see it in the excitement. You're going to see it. It's going to be the first story on SportsCenter instead of the 10th story or whatever that it would be if like Lucas Bjerregaard won. Tiger moves the needle, man. Tiger is the needle. It's all there for the taking, and it's going to be enormous hype if he's there on Sunday.
Do most people buy into the redemption story?
Well, it depends what you mean by redemption, doesn't it? If you mean like redemption from what? Redemption from his bad marriage, from the crazy incidents that he had, or do we just mean redemption just in the golfing sense that he's back and coming back? But I think either way, people like a story like that. I think Fitzgerald had a quote that there are no second acts in American lives, but I think it's wrong. I think people really like second acts in American lives, and I think there's a lot we'll forgive when you see Tiger limping around the course at age 43. Going for his 15th major against all odds when he hasn't won one since 2010. So, yeah, people are going to be super into that. Whether it represents real redemption or not, that's kind of a question for the philosophers, but I think people will buy into it.
So Tiger has just parred 16. He remains on 3 under, tied for the lead. Rory Mcilroy's just birdied the par 5 15th, so he's back to level par. He's back within 3 of the lead. It's an incredibly crowded leaderboard at the moment. I don't know how much you've seen of Rory's round, and for anybody who is at work and looking for a way to pass a little bit of time, I would advise you to get onto the Masters website, which is just sensational, where you can watch every shot that every player is playing, probably within 20-25 seconds of them actually hitting the shot. You pick the player, you can watch their shot. It's sensational coverage particularly from the Masters, where for so long they were so restrictive. So from what you've seen of Rory, the bits it looked as though everything was a little bit off. He hit a bad tee shot on the first, and the iron play hasn't really been where he'd want it to be.
Yeah, I think Augusta is just a really, really tough ask for Rory, which doesn't mean he'll never win it, but the pressure that comes in every single year, everybody's always talking about Rory, no matter what's happening in the rest of his play. And in this case, he won the Players' Championship, so people are rightfully saying, he's the favorite, he's the odds-on favorite, he's the gambling favorite. But that just, in a lot of ways, that can just add to the pressure, and you probably don't need to add much. Rory knows that this is the last one he needs for the career Grand Slam. He knows that, as great as he is and as great as he might be, to fulfill that legacy, you need to win a Masters. It'll be incomplete in some way. And I've seen quotes lately which are really good where he talks about, I can live without it. My life doesn't depend on winning a green jacket. But
do you believe him when he says that?
Yeah, to an extent, I believe that. I believe that he has, he's smart enough to have adopted that philosophy, and I do think he'll live just fine without one. But every time he's at Augusta, man, he's going to know it. You just can't help it. You just can't help knowing it, and he can't help wanting that green jacket, particularly when he gets close.
For the next 3 years, the first 3 months of every year of his life is going to be dominated by Augusta until he wins it, and a career Grand Slam, and it'll become more and more difficult. So, listen, he's on level par. He's right thereabouts. Looking at that leaderboard, then you have Rickie Fowler's moved on to 2 under par, runner-up last year, seen as possibly the best golfer, still waiting to win a major. Jon Rahm is very much in that conversation. He's 3 under with 2 to play. Rahm is a fascinating character in terms of temperament, and McIlroy's done so much work on that. You talk about the Players, which McIlroy won. Jon Rahm was in control of that tournament, gave this very impressive press conference on the Saturday night where he spoke about his temperament, how he's matured, how he's very much on top of his emotions, and he absolutely imploded on the Sunday. Hit a 76, threw the toys out of the pram. He's still a young guy. He's, still 23, so maybe we were expecting too much, but again, showing very early in a major, all the talent is there.
Yeah, all the talent for sure is there. I personally think it's a little too soon for Jon Rahm, but he an interesting thing along with the temper. I wrote a piece last year for Golf Digest with Mark Brody, who you might know as a big stats guru on the PGA Tour. And, he's the he's basically the head honcho.
He's the nerd's nerd.
Yeah, he's the nerd's nerd. He invented ShotLink, and we looked at which players play the worst in majors compared to how they normally play. So in other words, who has the worst clutch gene? And Jon Rahm was last. He's dead last. And again, he's very young, and that's not a knock on him. It's not calling him a choker, and this was before the Players' Championship when we wrote this. We saw, again, he's not quite there under pressure yet. I do not see him winning a major this year, and certainly not at Augusta.
So looking at that leaderboard and from the golf you've been watching over the last 5-6 hours, anyone standing out?
Among the guys leading right now, I would have to say the guy I've been marking for weeks now is Rickie Fowler. He came very close last year. He made a great late run. Again, this is a guy who doesn't play particularly well on Sundays when he has a chance to win a major, but we see him at his Players' Championship victory. He was clutch. He loves this course. He's always in the top 10, top 5. He's someone I really like, and I really think he's got a good chance this year. Aside from him and Tiger, it's kind of a surprising group. Adam Scott, sure, he could compete. Do I see him competing for 72 holes? Definitely not. And then you have to look down more to say, okay, Tommy Fleetwood's at 1 under. Xander Schauffele's at 1 under. He could be tough. And then looking down, not really many usual suspects. You have DeChambeau, Dustin Johnson at 1 under. I think really what has to happen is, it's a fool's errand trying to guess at 4 p.m. American time on Thursday what's going to happen.
Yes, I think scoring has been pretty high so far as well, which we were talking on our Golf Weekly podcast. Peter Lowry had been chatting to Shane Lowry's caddy, who had said conditions were very, very difficult, far more difficult, I think, than people were expecting because there'd been quite a bit of rain. 3 under par leading after a first round, probably the highest or lowest, whichever way you want to look at it, leading score post first round in years.
I don't know about that. I think you might be wrong on that one. But there are a lot of red numbers out there for sure. I don't think 3 necessarily. I mean, that's a 69. That's okay. That's good. It's absolutely good. But when you look at winning scores have been 14 in the past and things like that. I think you've probably seen guys get to 5-6 under before. Which doesn't mean your premise is wrong that the course is playing pretty easy. With all the guys in red numbers, that has to be the case. So, yeah, it could be a really bunched up leaderboard. It certainly will be after today, unless somebody really goes crazy. But we'll probably know more after tomorrow, and we'll start to see the wheat separate from the chaff a little bit.
All right, Shane, great stuff as always.
All right, thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Shane Ryan there, author of Slaying the Tiger, which if you haven't read, and I think certainly most of our Golf Weekly listeners have read, you should definitely go and purchase that.